You ever open your front door and see someone you never thought you'd see again? Standing there, shaking, with tears streaming down their face? That's exactly what happened to me that Tuesday evening. I mean, I was just sitting in my chair, watching the news, when I heard this soft knock. Not the kind of knock you get from the mailman or a neighbor, but a hesitant one, almost scared. And when I opened the door, there she was, my daughter, my little girl. Well, she's 32 now, but in my eyes, still that stubborn, beautiful kid who used to argue with me about bedtime. And here's the thing. I hadn't heard her voice in 5 years. Not a phone call, not a text, not even a Christmas card. Nothing. 5 years of complete silence. And suddenly, she's standing there in the rain, hair messy, eyes red, holding a small duffel bag like she'd just run away from somewhere. I just froze. I didn't know whether to hug her, yell at her, or ask her what in God's name she was doing here. Truth is, all those emotions hit me at once. I was angry, really angry, and yet, my heart was breaking right there in my chest. She said my name, not Dad. My name. That stung. "Can I come in?" she asked, voice shaking, and I just stepped aside, because what else do you do when your own child, the one who swore she never wanted to see you again, shows up crying at your door? But before we get to what happened inside, you need to know why she stopped talking to me in the first place. Because it wasn't some small argument. It was ugly. You see, 5 years ago, there was this night, a family dinner that went off the rails faster than you can imagine. My daughter, Emily, had been dating this guy. Let's just call him Jason. And from the moment I met him, something felt off. You ever meet someone and just get that gut feeling like they're smiling too much, talking too smooth? That was him. And I told her, straight up, I don't trust him. But you know how it is. Tell a grown kid you don't like their partner, and suddenly, you're the enemy. It all came to a head that night. We were sitting at the table. My wife had made her famous roast chicken, and Jason decides it's the perfect time to announce they're getting married. No warning, no conversation beforehand. Just drops it like a bomb in the middle of dinner. I didn't congratulate them. I didn't smile. I asked one question. Do you even know what you're getting into? And Emily, she lost it. Said I was controlling. Said I'd always tried to ruin her happiness. Said maybe I was just jealous because I never had a marriage that worked. That one. That cut deep. I told her Jason wasn't who she thought he was. And Jason, that smug look on his face. He just sat there like he'd already won. By the end of the night, Emily was packing her things. She told me I wasn't invited to the wedding, that she didn't want me in her life, and that I'd never meet any children she might have. That was the last time we spoke. For 5 years, I'd see little glimpses of her life through other people. A tagged photo on Facebook, a rumor from a cousin, but I stayed out of it. I figured she made her choice. And now, here she was, standing in my living room, dripping rainwater on the rug, looking like the world had just collapsed around her. I made some coffee mostly because I needed something to do with my hands. We sat there in silence for a few minutes. The only sound was the ticking of that old clock on the wall. Finally, she whispered, I didn't know where else to go. And my heart, as much as I wanted to stay mad, it cracked open. But I didn't push her. Not yet. I just said, you're here now. That's what matters. And that's when she looked up, eyes wide, and said something that made my stomach drop. Dad, you were right about him. I didn't say a word. I just stared at her, stared and waited. When she said that, Dad, you were right about him, I swear. 1,000 thoughts hit me all at once. Part of me wanted to say, I told you so. But you don't say that when your kid is sitting there looking like she's been through hell. I just sat back, crossed my arms and said, all right, tell me what happened. She took a deep breath. but her hands were shaking, and she wrapped them around the coffee mug like she was holding onto it for dear life. "Jason's not who I thought he was," she said, voice breaking. He lied to me about everything. And I'm thinking, everything? People lie about money, jobs, little stuff. But when someone says everything, that's not small. She went on, staring down at her coffee instead of looking at me. Turns out, Jason had been running this whole double life. He told her he had some high-paying consulting job. But really, he was working odd jobs, gambling away whatever money he got, and racking up debt in her name. Yeah, her name. She didn't find out until the debt collectors started calling. You ever feel that punch in your gut when someone you trusted just burns your whole life down? That was written all over her face. She told me he'd drained their joint account, sold her grandmother's bracelet, the one my late wife gave her, and worst of all, there were other women. Not one. Not two. She stopped counting at 4. And the way she found out? One of them called her. From Jason's phone. I couldn't help it, my hands curled into fists. I was angry. Really angry. And yet, I was also looking at my daughter thinking, how did we get here? She said she'd confronted him that morning. And instead of apologizing, he laughed. Told her she should have known better. That she wasn't worth staying faithful to anyway. Yeah. I almost broke the mug I was holding when she said that. She told me she grabbed her bag, walked out, and just drove. No plan. No destination. Just away. I didn't even think you'd open the door, she whispered, and I looked right at her and said, Emily, I will always open the door for you. Her eyes filled up again, and for a second, she looked 12 years old all over. We sat there in silence after that, not the awkward kind, but the heavy kind, where you're both just trying to catch your breath from the weight of everything. But here's the thing. I still didn't know why she'd stayed with him so long. So I asked. She said it was pride. She didn't want to admit I'd been right. And trust me, that hit me like a brick. All those years of silence, over pride. I told her, Emily, I'd rather you come to me with the messiest truth than stay away with a pretty lie. She nodded, but I could see she wasn't ready to forgive herself yet. Then she asked something I didn't expect. Dad, can I stay here, just for a while? I didn't even have to think. As long as you need, I said. But there was this part of me that knew Jason wasn't just going to let her go. Guys like that, controlling, manipulative, they don't give up easily. And I was right. Around 9 o'clock, my phone lit up with a number I didn't recognize. I let it go to voicemail. 2 minutes later, there's banging on the front door. Not knocking, banging. Emily's face went pale. It's him, she whispered. I told her to go upstairs and lock the door, and she didn't argue. I stepped outside, shut the door behind me, and there he was, Jason, standing there with that same smug look I'd seen the night he announced their engagement. Where is she? He demanded. I said, not here for you anymore. He tried to push past me, but I blocked the doorway. And here's the thing. I'm not a small guy, and I wasn't about to let him intimidate me on my own porch. You need to leave, I told him. He laughed, said something about how she belongs to him, and that's when I lost it. I stepped closer and said, the only thing you own right now is the mess you made, and you're gonna clean it up from a distance. He muttered something under his breath, stormed off, and peeled out of the driveway. I stood there for a minute, watching the taillights disappear, and my hands were still shaking. When I went back inside, Emily was standing halfway down the stairs, tears in her eyes. Thank you, she whispered. I told her, this isn't over yet, but we're gonna get through it. And even as I said it, I knew the real storm was still coming. I barely slept that night. Every creak in the house had me on edge. You know, listening for his car, wondering if he'd be stupid enough to come back. Emily was upstairs in her old room. And it felt strange after all those years, hearing her soft footsteps overhead again. In the morning, I made coffee, and she came down wearing one of my old flannel shirts, looking like she'd aged 10 years overnight. "Dad, I need to do something," she said, sitting at the table. "I can't just hide here." I told her we'd figure it out together. But she shook her head. "I have to end it. Legally. I want a divorce." Truth is, I was relieved to hear her say it, so I called up an old buddy of mine, retired lawyer, still sharp as a tack, and explained the situation. He agreed to meet us that afternoon. We spent hours going through paperwork, bank statements, text messages, all the stuff she'd been too ashamed to show anyone before. And guess what? Jason had left a trail a mile wide. Fraud, asset theft, infidelity, all documented. My buddy leaned back in his chair and said, "We can bury him with this." Emily looked at me, almost scared, and I said, "You want out? This is the way." But just when I thought we had the upper hand, Jason decided to make it messy. That night, my truck's windshield got smashed. Big rock, right through the glass. No note. But we didn't need one. Emily called the police, and when they showed up, they weren't surprised to hear his name. Turns out, they'd had other complaints about him. And here's the thing. This wasn't just about getting him out of her life anymore. It was about showing her she could stand up to the worst version of a man and walk away stronger. Over the next few weeks, we built the case. Every time she wavered, I reminded her, he had no problem burning your life down. Don't hesitate to rebuild it without him. Court day finally came. Jason swaggered in like he was about to win a prize. But when my buddy slid those photos, those messages, those bank records across the table, I just watched the color drain from his face. He tried to talk his way out of it, but the judge wasn't having it. Divorce granted, restraining order approved, financial penalties coming his way. Emily squeezed my hand so hard when the gavel came down, I thought she might break it. Walking out of that courtroom, I saw it the first real smile on her face in years. She took a deep breath and said, "Dad, thank you for opening the door." And I told her, I didn't just open the door, I'm keeping it open. Always. We got back home, and she went upstairs to unpack. But I stayed in the kitchen, just sitting there, letting it all sink in. 5 years of silence, gone in a single knock on the door. The thing is, I thought that was the end of it. I thought maybe, just maybe, we could put Jason behind us for good. But a week later, I found an envelope in the mailbox, no return address. Inside was a photo of Emily and me, taken through the kitchen window, with a note that said, "This isn't over. And here's the thing, I don't scare easy. But when someone's watching your family from the shadows, that's a different kind of fear." So I called Emily downstairs, showed her the note, and said, "Looks like we're not done yet." She didn't flinch. She just said, "Then let's finish it." You ever have that moment where you realize your kid's not a kid anymore? That was mine, because the look in her eyes, it told me she was ready to fight back. And maybe, just maybe, the next chapter won't be about running from Jason, but making sure he never has the chance to come near us again.